All right, now we're going to get started with something called the head pointer. The head pointer is something that I know a lot of you kind of at this point are going, oh my gosh, all this terminology, what are you doing to me, Joe? You're going way too fast. I just want to quit. Don't just yet. Just hang in with me for a little bit longer. Eventually, this is all going to come together. It's going to wrap up nicely. But just really try for it's really just like 2 more slides to get this terminology down because we're gonna wrap it up and it's going to be it's going to very cleanly come together in just a bit. So the head pointer points to the tip or the current branch in the repository. It points to where when we send something to the publisher, this is where that something is going to go. Because remember, we're going to be sending a lot of stuff to the publisher. We're going to be sending things over and over and over again. And we're going to kind of make a line. And we're going to make a line that goes all the way out to the last checked out state. So, for example, let's say we're writing chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and each time we finish a chapter, we send it to the publisher. So we add it, we commit it, we add it, we commit it, we add it, commit it. And we're actually going to be doing this later on in the course. So don't be like, this is impossible to visualize. We're going to be doing it later, but bear with me for a little bit. So this head is going to point to where, when we send something, it should go. So I guess let's think about it this way. Every time you send something to your publisher, you're going to be sending an envelope to her, right? And she's going to put that envelope on a stack. And she's going to keep stacking them over and over and over again and making a huge pile of envelopes. So eventually, by the time we're on chapter 16, she's got a huge stack of envelopes like 2 feet high. And this head points to where the next envelope should go. It tells her, hey, the head is pointing at that big stack of envelopes. When I send you a new chapter, put it right on top of that big stack of envelopes. And that also means that it will be the parent of the next commit. We're going to explore this in the next slide a little bit more, but understand that each commit looks back at another commit. It has a parent. So our envelope at the top of the stack, it has a SHA key. Remember, all commits have a SHA key. They have that really long hexadecimal string. And when we commit something, that next envelope, the publisher pretty much just writes on the package, okay, the one before this one is commit. So quick example here. We have commit B and commit C. C is what we're working on. C is on our working directory. We haven't sent that to the publisher yet. B is already at the publisher. If we send C, if we add and commit it to the publisher, and the head points to B, the publisher is going to get the envelope and say, okay, on envelope C, she's going to write, the one that comes before this is B. So then she puts that down on top of the stack. So if they ever get discombobulated somehow, she can put them back in order because on every single envelope, on every single commit, it says what comes before this. And we know that because the head pointer points to what comes before this. So when we commit it, it goes. Now remember, this is what we're going to be using as a commit kind of message to what it's going to look like with a PowerPoint. That's what our head is going to look like for the rest of this presentation. So when you see that pointed at something, that's where when we commit something, that's what's going to be the parent. Now, the next slide hopefully will clear a lot of this up. Everything's going to come together, so just bear with me for a little bit longer. All right, now we're going to talk about the commit chain. Hopefully, this is where a lot of stuff is going to come together. We're going to be doing this actually in Git in a couple videos. So for right now, I would suggest just sit back, relax, and really just focus on what is going on. Visualize and conceptually understand how Git is working. So in a previous video, we made our first commit. So this is going to be commit A, we're going to call it. Notice how the tree or the parent is null. There's nothing behind this commit. This is our first commit in this repository. Nothing is behind it. Do not worry about any previous files. This is all we got. Which also means this is where our head is currently going to point. Because if we make a commit B, then the commit B is going to point to this green one. So let's do that. Let's add a commit B. Okay, commit B showed up. And also notice I put the SHA keys of each commit on there. And you see that little red glowing on each SHA key. Most of the times, in order to reference a SHA key, you only need to reference like the first 5 or 6 numbers because your project is probably not going to be big enough where you're going to run into duplicates of the first 5 numbers. It's extremely rare, only for open source projects like Linux or some Linux distro or something is where you're gonna maybe have to use more, but generally you don't have to. But let's look at the blue commit. Look at that tree there. The tree is 758109D. Well, that's the first couple of characters of the green commit. So we know that it points to that commit. We also know the head has to move with the commit because we want the next commit, commit C, to point to B. So we're making a chain here. And also see, okay, no, I'm pointing out again, that's where the other one goes. So now let's make another commit. And now what's first going to happen? Well, the head's going to move, right? The head's going to go, okay, well now this is our latest commit. And also it shows us, okay, look, it points to the last one again. So we see they're all linked somehow, which is why also we're going to understand in a couple other videos why we can't just delete random commits, why we can't change them all. They're all linked very, very specifically to each other. This is generally how commits are going to work. They're all going to link, they're all reference a SHA key of one another. Really try to visualize this, maybe watch this video a couple times, understand how commits work. We're going to jump back into the development environment now and try and make these examples a little more concrete.